Oh.
Great. Welcome, everyone. Exciting to see a full house tonight here. We are live on Facebook, just so you know, so the whole world can hear about Sylvia's book. But welcome to Beaverdale Books. I know we have some longtime folks here. Who is new and have never been here before? Well, welcome. That's exciting. Thank you for joining us for this evening's book talk. Before we begin, I would want to mention a couple of the many upcoming events that we have. On Monday, October 26th, we will have Anessa Kajowski here talking about her book, No Skola Today, A Child's View of the Bosnian War and Life as a Refugee. Then author Larry Baker will be here on Tuesday, November 4th to share his book, Tell It Slant. You can find all the details on our website, pick up a flyer at the register, or sign up for our newsletter to keep up on all of our events all year long. Now, on to the program. In Happy Now, Shattering the Myth of Happily Ever After, author Sylvia Nemmers explores with readers her experiences of living blind in a sighted world, her journey from Christianity to Islam and beyond, her life in Pakistan, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Greece with intention in finding happy now. She hopes that her experiences may help readers move forward in their own journey to happy now. Sylvia was born totally blind, but had surgery at the age of 4 that gave her back a little vision. A few months after that surgery, she was placed in a residential institutional school for the blind, where she stayed for 3 years. She was then enrolled at a private Catholic school with the children of doctors, lawyers, and politicians. In high school, she was told she could not study science. Now she holds a PhD in environmental science, soil chemistry, and is the department chair for the largest environmental science programs in the USA. Sylvia has lived in 6 countries and 7 states, is fluent in Arabic, and has 3 amazing grown children. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you. Gosh, I don't think I got anything else to say.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
good.
put your purse down.
No problem. Can you hear me all? I feel like, is it loud enough? Okay. I am so glad. I hear there's a lot of you out there. Every time somebody walks in, my partner Andrew will say, oh, this person's here and that person's here. I'm like, wow, this is wonderful. That's beautiful. I'm so happy. So I want to start by saying I believe that everybody has a book inside of them. I really do. I think that we have a life that we live, and we have our experiences, which teach us so much. But I am an avid reader, and I love to read fiction, but I also love to read other people's stories, even people that I don't necessarily agree with. Sometimes I'll read their books just to try to understand them better. And I just feel like my world, my tapestry of my life is more enriched with the stories of others. So whether it is that we get together and have Sunday dinner and talk about things as friends, or whether we write books and invite people into our world, I think our lives are always enriched by the stories that we share. This morning, I received an award, the Fearless Woman of Iowa Award from the Des Moines Business Record. Oh. Yeah. I really like the title of that award, because I think fear of what might happen stops us from doing a lot. And I remember when my company, Beyond Limits, published this book. So basically I did, but it's my company. When I was ready to hit that button to just submit it for publication, I had to sit with it for a minute, because I am inviting people into the stories of my life. And we all have moments in our lives where we make choices and things go in a way that we're not the most proud of. Or if we could turn back time, would I do it differently? I don't know that I'd answer yes to that question, but I think in the moment I was like, why did I make that choice? And I'm sharing that with you through this book. And I really tried my hardest to not, this was not going to be a trauma dump, although there were some traumatic things that happened. I really wanted it also to be a story for people. There are people, it couldn't have been just me. I couldn't have been the only one who got to a point in their life that they didn't know when they would feel happy again. If they had a day that had some happiness in it, like this is me, I would grab hold of that day so tight, and I wouldn't want to let go of that moment for fear that happiness wouldn't be back in my world for a very long time. And that's a hard way to live. In fact, I don't think we were designed at all to live that way. And I share these stories because in the midst of the very difficult time, there were these moments that were amazing too, like making Hajj in Mecca with 3 million other people, driving through the empty quarter of Saudi Arabia, visiting Petra and Greece, living in Greece. That was something that all of these things had amazing moments, but I wasn't living authentically. I wasn't actually me, because I was believing that if I were to be just me, who I really am, that I wouldn't be accepted. And a lot of that had to do with the person I chose to spend my life with at that point, telling me, don't act blind. There's a whole chapter called Don't Act Blind. Yeah, don't act blind. That people won't accept you if they know you're blind. And so, hearing that for a couple decades, you start to wonder, well, maybe that's the case. So this is it's a journey through some struggles and hardships, but it's really a journey to understanding that embracing, not accepting, embracing your authentic self is the key. It's the key to happy. It's the key to being fearless. It's the key to knowing who you are and just being that person. Because you know what? It was really hard to always guess what others wanted of me. It was exhausting, actually. Now, I care what others want, and I will try to do what I can to be what I can, but I don't have to do it from a place of I'm changing who I am. I don't have to cut myself off into different pieces to do that. But so just give you a little thing. So I was born totally blind, and I did have a surgery at the age of 4. I remember life being blind, and it was kind of relaxing and easy because I don't have to work so hard to try and make the world work for me. But I do remember, I'll tell you, it's in the book too, but my first vision, the first time I had the patch taken off my eye. I had one eye surgery. It was an experimental surgery. They just did one eye. And when I took the patch off, it was my mom who took the patch off. And she was sitting in front of a window. And she takes the patch off, and I see her face, and it makes me so happy. But the sun comes into my eye, and it hurts so bad, like my eyes watering. And I'm 4 years old. My 4-year-old brain is saying, "Why in the world would people want this experience? It's just awful." Mm-hmm. Of course, we put the patch back on. We went to a darker space. We took it off, of course, pretty quickly. Vision is normal. And then I, life is going on, and then my mom's saying, "Oh, you want to go to school next year?" 4 years old. I'm the youngest of 7 children, so all of my brothers and sisters are going to school. So I don't know if you guys have ever had anybody who has multiple children. That youngest, they're always wanting to do what their older siblings are doing, right? So I was so thrilled about going to school. Well, you'll read in the book in more detail. I end up as a residential institutional school for the blind. It's called it was called the Iowa Braille and Sight Saving School. It's actually the same school that Laura Ingalls Wilder, older sister, she went blind and she went to a school that was that same school. We called it the Braille Jail. I was being left there. I was 4 years and 10 months old when I was left at that school. And it was heart-wrenching. I think it changed a lot of the decisions in my life were changed at that moment, because I went from sleeping between my sister Angie on my right and my sister Julie on my left in a big double bed, because we were 7 kids in a fairly small house. And I went to a dorm room, with house mothers that were only mothers in name. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever watched, what's it called? The King's Gambit on Netflix. about the little girl who plays chess. Oh my gosh. I mean, when I watch something, I got to tell you, I put it on my phone, and I put my phone right next to my, and I watch it that way. And when she went into that school, when she was first orphaned, wow, it was like, yes, that's the school. That's institutional schools for you. And then, I was there for 3 years. A lot of different things happened. I share in the book. But what I'm trying to get to this story is that when my mom came to pick me up after the 3rd year, she said, hey, do you want to go to school with your brothers and sisters in Des Moines next year? Oh my gosh, I was dancing around the room. I was so happy. Every time we had to drop off this with the house mother, I would say, I don't have to come back next year. And then we went to visit the maintenance guy that we'd been friends with. I don't have to come back. My mom was so embarrassed. She said, stop saying that. But that's the thing. When that 3 years at the School for the Blind, I was so authentic. I didn't have to try to act sighted. I didn't have to try to act any way at all. And while the experience was very unpleasant, when I wanted to figure out who the authentic me was decades later, when I finally got out of the marriage that was very unhealthy and I was on my own, I had my kids, but I was on my own as an adult. When I wanted to go back and find my authentic self, I spent a lot of time with the Sylvia of the Witten Sylvia, because I was so much authentically myself. So I'm like, I thought at the age of 7, I had reached happily ever after, because we program our children really early about happily ever after. And I think we do our children a disservice, because happy is a day-by-day experience. But that's what I was thinking. All the nursery rhymes and the fairy tales of our childhood, at the age of 7, I'm like, happily ever after. Then I went to my first day of school at St. Augustine's. And and it's in the book too in more detail, but I was so excited because I love playgrounds. I loved being outside. I ended up getting a PhD in soil, and I remember very young making mud pies. I've always loved the feel of the soil. St. Augustine's, I had been to the school before. I'd gotten a tour of where the rooms were I needed. I'd gotten a tour of the playground. I knew there was a jungle gym. Oh my God, the School for the Blind didn't have a jungle gym. We did have a fireman's pole, which I thought was really weird. Fireman's pole, but anyway, that's something else. And they had bowling alleys, go figure. But I couldn't wait to get out and do the jungle gym, so I'm going, running. I'm so excited to be out on recess. I get to that jungle gym, and I'm like trying to figure out how to climb it, how to walk. It's like straight across, and so you go hand over hand and going across. I'm having such a good old time, and then I want to hang upside down. So when you're at a School for the Blind, you never think about that, because no one would ever know or care. But these children, of course, did see it, and they did care, and I was not ready for, I was authentic, but I was also socialized in a very different way. And so my time at St. Augustine's, and even through Dowling, was very difficult. But I can't see what they're doing, or I'm having a bad day, because in my 7-year-old mind, if I complained about St. Augustine's, I'd get sent back to Vinton. At a meeting, I'll pretend to look at the PowerPoint slides, and I catch myself doing it. I'm like, why are you pretending to look at the PowerPoint slides just to make everybody else more comfortable? But you start pretending, and you start trying to do what you need to do to fit in. I mean, I really figured out the education part. I mean, I just listen carefully. I'm really good at memorizing things. I still remember my ex-husband's social security number. I've tried to forget it, but the point is that I figured out education. I figured out how I could make it through courses, and although I got put in special education courses for being a slow reader. You think I'm slow reader? Okay. But I became very good at imitating others, very good at denying parts of myself to hopefully fit in and be normal. So as I went through my life, and I'm in university, I've fallen in love with a guy who wanted me to change a lot, and I was all prepared to do it, and I did it. it was a hard experience to then go further and further down into that hole of being what somebody else wanted me to be, and then get so far in there that I don't know who I am anymore. Then I have 3 kids, and I don't know how, if I were, somebody tells you you're nothing without me, and you start to believe that for a while. But anyhow, that's just, see, the thing is that there's so many threads in this book. This is the thread of trying to get back to my authenticity after how trying to fit into this sided world gave me the tool set to be whatever somebody else wanted me to be. And I had to go through that path to its end in order to come out and say, I actually can be what I want to be. I am capable. I am able to make my choices, to take my consequences, and be who I want to be. And that's one thread in the book. Another thread in the book is my journey. I was born Catholic. My family's Catholic, raised Catholic St. Augustine's, Dowling. I think by the end of my Catholic education, I definitely believed in God, which is why I studied biochemistry. For me, people, why do I believe in God or the divine or the creator? Because every cell in your body, at this moment, there are billions of reactions going on all the time to manage your blood sugar and your body temperature. Just copying your DNA to make another cell it's machinery like you can't imagine. To have your blood clot is a 12-step chemical reaction, and each step has to happen perfectly for just your blood to clot. The more I studied science, the more I studied biochemistry, the more I was certain that there's something bigger than us. And I think nowadays I'm like, we are a part of something bigger than us. But I knew that there was the divine. I just didn't find Catholicism in the way that I was taught it to really work for me. So then how did I end up becoming Muslim? Well, I didn't start out that way. I had started out wanting, so my first husband, before he was my husband, he was Muslim, Palestinian. And we would have long conversations about Palestine and about Islam. And my beginning path to Islam was, all religion is just there to control the masses, and I'm going to show you that your religion, like mine, is just that way. And so I started reading the Quran, and I start studying Islam, and I start to see a lot of beautiful things in this religion. In fact, all of the beautiful things that I still held on to from my Christian upbringing were still there, all the way to the idea that Jesus was born immaculately to the Virgin Mary. It was there. In fact, my daughter's name is Miriam, and she's named after the Virgin Mother of Jesus. There's a whole chapter in the Quran about Mary and Jesus' immaculate birth. I'm like, wow, I didn't know Muslims believed that. All of the prophets are there. Adam, Moses, Noah. In fact, John the Baptist in Islam is a prophet. Really? Wow. So I go a little deeper, and then all the things that I really am wanting to still keep with me are all there. But the difference is that the Quran is in its original language. It goes through interpretations. It's been interpreted in other languages. But the Quran is only the Quran when it's in Arabic, and it's been memorized by millions of people. So it can't be changed because it's been memorized by millions of people. And so as a scientist, I'm like, wow, this is what you call a original source. Like, it's not even been translated. So there were so many things that drew me to Islam. And so I was a practicing Muslim for about, 27 years. Ellie, rest. About 27 years. I wore hijab. At some point, I even covered my face, mostly when I lived in Pakistan because it was culturally more acceptable there. And so, I got a lot of questions about that when I would come back to the States. Why do you dress like that? And, all of these things. No one forced me to wear hijab. I was very pleased to wear it. When I chose to stop wearing it, my practice of Islam evolved into more of a Sufi existence. So Sufi Islam is more of a spiritual Islam that, in my understanding, I'm no expert, in my understanding of it is that there are 99 names for the divine: the merciful, the generous, the peaceful, the strong, the patient, the loving. There's like 99, I don't know all of them, but they're all beautiful. And so the idea that I've experienced through the Sufi version of Islam, or the Sufi expression of Islam, is that we are here on this existence to shine out those 99 names into the world. So it wasn't so much about this is wrong and that is wrong, and but it was how can I shine out these 99 names and be the mirror for others to see that expression and experience that and start having that in their lives. And I really love that. So in that sense, I would still say, if I were to connect myself to any formal religion, it would be a Sufi experience of Islam. But I think at some point, I realized I really couldn't conform to a religion that had the idea of right and wrong. Like not right and wrong, like killing could be right or it could be wrong. That's not what I mean. I mean, we are right, and that makes the rest of you wrong. And how many minutes am I in here?
You have a few more minutes.
Okay, so because I don't want to keep going on and on, but so here's where I'm at spiritually, on the spiritual side of this. I had this vision about a month ago. I was visiting a congregation, and they were worshiping in a way that I don't, but it was so beautiful. I must say, it was really beautiful. And as I was sitting there, so I'm blind in this world, but I have incredible visions that come to me. So this is a vision of a maypole. And at the top of this maypole, in my vision, there was this beautiful, like, golden mandala type thing with nice intricate patterns. And then there were all these either individual people or groups of people at the bottom holding on to these beautiful ribbons that are coming down from the maypole. One of them was like a gold brocade. Of course, there had to be a few purple ones, because I love purple. Teal and orange and green and yellow. And they weren't just different colors. They were of different fabrics. Like some of it was velvet, and some of it was like satin, and some of it was just different, like weaved fabric. Very different colors and textures of fabric. And it was so beautiful. And then they started to dance, Some went right and some went left. And what made it more beautiful was as they weaved, and the right shoulder, of one touched the left of the other, and then you weave in, and your left shoulder touches somebody's right shoulder, and you're dancing, and the music is playing. This all gets more beautiful as these different fabrics are weaved around each other, and the maypole becomes beautifully complete through the mixing of these different ideas. And I mean, I have my interpretation of my own vision is this: we all have our connections to the divine, and they will look different, and they will feel different, and they will be different. And I don't need you to hold my rope, to hold my fabric. But if we can intermingle, if we can dance together, I can experience your way of connecting with the divine, and I bet you some of it's going to connect with me, and I might add that into the tapestry of my fabric, and maybe some of what I do will weave into your fabric, making it even more beautiful. But I don't have to tell you only my way works. We're all connecting with the divine, and that's another theme in my book, is that I feel like a big part of understanding how to find your happy is doing something that I call intentional solitude, where you spend some time alone. I spent 3 years on Virginia Beach. I mean, not literally on the beach. I lived a block away, but I lived by myself on Virginia Beach for 3 years. So I took that intentional solitude pretty seriously. But I do it still on my own, in my own home now. You find a spot, a corner of a room. If you're lucky enough, you have a room that you can devote to that type of thing. That's a blessing. Will you spend some time and you evaluate your day or your week or your month, and you take some time to think, how did that go? What happened that really helped me feel more connected to that divine? And what didn't work for me? Because let me focus on the things that are connecting me to the divine and are connecting me to my internal happiness, my internal guidance. And for me, that recipe has really helped me to be more authentic, to be more connected to the divine, to be more true to myself, and hopefully to help share that with the people that I interact with. Because this is the point of the book. Yes, there's some interesting stories and some strange things that happened to me. Yeah. But the big point was nothing's ever final. Again, in high school, long before there was ever a vision board, I'd never heard of the thing called a vision board. I created my own vision board in my head. I mean, I always do that. I never take notes. I've got a PhD. I never write down notes. It doesn't work for me. So I have it in my head. Same thing. I did a vision board in my head. In this vision board, I was going to get married to a very good-looking man. I was going to travel the world. I was going to get a whole new wardrobe. I was going to get a really good job, have beautiful children. And at that time, my eyes were very crossed and very not looking normal. I was going to have straight eyes that looked normal. Okay? This is my grocery list of my dream. I got every single thing on that list. All of them. Every one of them. The thing is, dreams were never meant to be engraved on granite. Dreams have to be reevaluated. Dreams have to be fluid. Dreams have to be sat with. That's what I mean by dream with intention. Because once I decided that was my laundry list and that's what I was getting, I got it. But I lost a lot of myself along the way. So I really encourage you to make a practice of intentional solitude. Some people will call it meditation. For some of us, that word's just too heavy. Like, I don't think I can meditate. Am I going to levitate as well? No. Meditation, this intentional solitude could be a walk in the woods. I'm really blessed that I live right next to Gray's Lake, so I can go walk to these really old trees that have bark that's so thick my whole hand fits in there. So, it could be a walk in the park. It could be a sound bath. It could be meditation, the traditional sense. It could be listening to, smelling some beautiful incense. What you're going to explore all of the different ways that work for you. It might be going to a church service. That might be exactly what works for you. Whatever it is, but make room to stop, to intentionally connect to the divine, if that's something that you believe in, or to just connect with yourself and make sure you're even knowing what works for you and what doesn't. Because I don't know how many of you have been parents, and when your kids grow up and move out, you're like, now what do I do? I hope my whole life was being a parent. Or you retire and you're like, my whole life was being a professor. Our life has got to, if we can, spend the time internally understanding who we are and what we have to give and what brings us joy and happiness, we can be a lot more intentional about how we live our lives. And for me, that has brought me to the place of happy now. So just a little bit of very random things thrown together, and I hope another thing I hope is I'm a speaker for a group called Cultural. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Cultural. They're a really cute organization, and they pick people to be books on their bookshelf. And then people, libraries, bookstores, schools, they can check you out, and you go and spend an hour or two with them. Usually you talk for like 7 or 10 minutes, and then you use the rest of the hour for conversation and questions, which I'm really glad we're going to have some time for that, because I would love to have questions from you, or even better, how has some of my story resonated with yours? I heard there's a lot of people out there. It sounds really quiet.
Does anyone have any questions or want to answer Sylvia's question? Yeah.
My name is Cheryl. I have a question.
Yeah.
I want to know how does it feel when you have an authentic aha moment, when you come back to who you are rather than what you were told that you are?
It feels very empowering. It feels like I'm not running through jello anymore. It feels like I'm floating on air. Like when I'm moving authentically and not concerned if it works for other people. I feel powerful and I feel free. And that's why I wrote the book, because if you haven't had that feeling, if you haven't felt it in a while, or maybe you're an expert at it, in any case, that's so important. And if you're an expert at it, make sure the people around you share that expertise with them, because I thought it was just me for the longest time, but I come to find out I've written this book and I've started doing these speaking engagements. It's not just me and being blind. It could be anything. I've had a lot of people share with me experiences they have. I hate going into rooms where I don't know anyone because I don't know what to say or I don't know what to do. I'm like, really? I just was blaming that on my blindness because I didn't know who was there. So I think it's something that maybe the human condition, we have that experience. What do you think?
I don't know. I just listening to you talk brought out like a whole. I felt like my mind was blown because I can understand the experience that you had, even though I was not physically blind, because I felt like I was a hostage in my spiritual teaching, in that I could never go outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I'm 75 years old, they want to know what happened to you. You're different. I'm experiencing a lot of things. So it sounds refreshing to hear what you've done, and how you've changed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you find a different way that works better for you, it doesn't mean when I first told my father I became Muslim, he's like, how could you do that? He wasn't mean or angry. I didn't have the experience that a lot of other Muslim reverts might have had, but he was like a bit offended. And that's why I was like, all the beautiful things you raised me with, I'm carrying them with me because they're so beautiful. I'm just finding a way that aligns more with me, and that's gone on and on through my life. So it's not about rejecting what was there before. It's about refining it to really fit your connection with the divine. That's my opinion.
Any other questions? They're very silent, Sylvia.
I don't believe you all are here.
Hi, Sylvia. It's Sarah. I'm
Hi,
really
Sarah.
glad to be here. I have been waiting to be at your book signing for a long time, and I've heard bits and pieces of your stories, and I just admire you so much. My heart,
Thank you, Sarah.
What I think of as Shirley was sharing too is, as an artist, you go through all this training. You learn how to work with all the different mediums. You go to art school and you study the history, and as if you get your degree in art, and it's all about refining and perfecting and knowledge and trying new things. But there was one time I was out in New York and I was at the Castelli Gallery, and I think it was the owner of the gallery was talking to somebody about the show that was there, and it could have been, I can't remember who the artist was, but he said, artists, we go through our whole life studying to be an artist, and all we really, but the challenge is to reconnect with that original innocent line. Mm-hmm. And to me, authenticity has to do with innocence again, reclaiming our innocence. Mm-hmm. And I think, I work with children, and I'm like, they're so connected to the divine without even thinking about it, and not being taught what the divine is. They have that sense of it. They bring it with them into the world. And in my experience with Catholicism myself, that divine was actually said, no, you are not divine. You know, you're born a sinner. You know, so this religious programming was, no, you can't be this anymore. First, also being a woman, you know, you can't be a priest. You have to be a virgin if you're gonna, you know, that sort of mindset that goes in. So it wasn't a lot of things that I could relate to as a woman, and all the masculine, all the book of John and the book of, you know, you hear all the men's names, and the God is Father, Son, and, you know, it's all masculine, where the feminine is missing a lot in mine. But I think through reclaiming our spirituality, we get back in touch with that. And I was really blessed to hear you mention Sufism, because I was blessed to go and be in New Mexico for a while, and it really reclaimed my spirituality, because there's all the religions there. And I agree with you. So you could just pick everything. All these religions have a little bit of the truth, and how they weave together and how we interpret it. So
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that image of the maypole and all that.
Absolutely. I will tell you, when you talk about a lot of our authenticity is in our childhood. So I have a business idea. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of money, and I definitely don't have a lot of business acumen. So I'm putting it out there free to anyone who has money and business acumen. I would love to have a giant playground for adults. Now, I know where that's going to go for some of you. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about a foursquare and a ball. I'm talking about places that are built for hide and seek, places for finger painting, like the art room and the lunch room, and you can have farm to table food in your lunchroom, and you can have people like Sarah and Zach come and have guest art classes, and you have the fun things at school. No bullies allowed. We will not have any bullies on our playground, and we will get to be kids. And guess what? We're all going to get exercise, because hide and seek and foursquare and handball are all going to give us exercise. I really think if we could all just have a safe space, a playground, bully-free, and just be able to be our childish, innocent, playful selves as an adult with the wisdom that we have, that could be really fun. So there's a business idea for somebody.
As long as we can hang upside down with dresses.
Exactly.
Sylvia, Martha.
Yes.
That's a good analogy. I loved when you talked about taking your experiences, good, bad, or whatever, and refining them. But you've done, through all of these stories, and I've heard some of your others, you just can not only refine, but really incorporate or take them on or wear them or something. I went, just to your business idea, I went to a leadership class one year that was 5 days or something, and it was called the Authenticity. And you spent half a day in a kindergarten room trying to pull out toys, clay. When you said finger painting, that was always my thing. And then elementary, then junior high. And at first I was sort of resistant, and then I really got into it. And I took home where my favorite place was, and I went home and did a couple things from kindergarten. That was my favorite sort of hug. But I'm not sure I ever refined them or took it on totally. So talk a little, I mean, it sounds like all your experiences, you've done that kind of really wearing it forward.
Yeah, I mean, every experience, even the hardest ones, gave me something. I mean, so I have this room in my house. It's a meditation room. I'm so blessed that I have a home, that I have space to build that space. And I spend time in there, and I sort of like sit and I mean, this is for me, I connect with my ancestors. And last week, no, 2 weeks, well, maybe even 3 weeks ago, my sister Julie, my grandfather, who I didn't know well, my parents were in their 40s when I was born, so I didn't know my grandparents well, but I knew that my grandfather I never met him, that grandfather was a woodworker, and he built the entire house that my uncle, the priest, lived in, so I'd visited that. But I had a love seat that he built. But when I left the country, whatever I had, I gave it to my sisters and brothers. So my sister Julie said, "You know that love seat?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "Would you like it back?" I'm like, "Oh, I would, actually." So this is over 100 years old. It was made by my grandfather. I put it in my meditation room. So this morning, because I had this event in the morning and this one in the evening, went into my meditation room, And I sat there and sat on that construction that was of my grandfather's making. And I just sat with my ancestors, my relatives, in gratitude, because I was not happy when I was left at that school for the blind at the age of 4 years and 10. In fact, I didn't even realize until my first child became 4 years and 10 months old. And I looked at him and I'm like, you're a baby. You're tiny. So, like, did I really love that moment? No, that was not a great moment. In fact, I've had many people read my book and say, I cried and I cried. I'm like, oh gosh, I didn't want you to cry through the whole book. I wanted other emotions in there too. Those moments, and there are moments that were definitely tear-worthy, they also made me who I am. They created a Sylvia that had a book to write. So yes, I think every moment we have has brought us to somewhere, to learn something, to grow something, or to teach people, hey, there's a point in the book where I'm in junior high and I have to go down a couple flights of stairs to get out to to walk home. And there were some very popular girls. They were very popular. I was not popular. I was very strange. But they stood, I usually held the railing. Going downstairs is harder than going up for me. And so they stood on the railing so I couldn't grab, and I had to walk down the center, and then they put their legs out and tripped me. And that was not fun either. But I did ask in the book, if anyone grew up as a bully, could you write a book and explain to me why you thought that was something you should do? Because I still don't understand it. But all of these things help, if they don't help you learn a lesson for yourself, they help you to be able to ask the questions of other people. Can you explain to me why that happened that way? Can I understand you better? Because you know what? Maybe they were going through hardships at home in their own families. Maybe they were feeling lesser than, and this gave them the feeling of better than. I don't know what was going on with them, but something was. So it gives you that empathy as well.
One last question. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
My name is Walid Ahmed and I'm from Pakistan, a foreign exchange student.
मेरा नाम Sylvia है. My name is Sylvia in Urdu.
Yeah. I have also memorized the Quran by the grace of Allah Almighty.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
I have a question that Maulana Jalaluddin has a quote that beauty is in the beholder's eye.
Yes.
So I have a kind of question that, like, there may be lots of people whose perception of viewing us would be quite different from our authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we become a better in their views? How can we become a better in it?
How can we become better in the view of other people?
Yeah. Like, there will be lots of people who will look us from different kind of lenses.
Yeah.
Whose perception regarding us would be quite different from what we are.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I
how
understand.
can we become like the way they think?
That is an excellent question. So I will tell you, it was a long time before I got a guide dog, because I didn't want people to make judgment calls about me, like what I can and can't do because I'm blind. Or even when I was wearing hijab for all those years, you would have people making judgments about maybe I was oppressed or, something like that. I mean, I had a difficult marriage, but that was because he was a challenged human being. It wasn't the religion that gave me a difficult situation. And so I think at some point I had to let go of trying to, I don't want to say I don't worry, but I can't change how other people are going to think of me. But if I can put forth my authentic self and say, I truly care about you, even if I don't live exactly like you or I don't agree with everything you agree with, I am going to welcome you to my home. I'm going to look at you, even though I can't see your face. I'm going to turn towards you when we talk. I'm going to be authentically caring about you as a human being because you are a human being. I can only put my authentic best foot forward, and I have to leave the judgment of what I am to others. I can't change it. But if I can stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, I did my best, I was honest and I was authentic and I was fair, then I'm okay. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the microphone from you. Thank you. And